this week we've got a topic on HR audits. So, Summer, you want to kick it off?
Sure will. Thanks, Joey. And I know that just the word audit oftentimes brings, I don't know, eye rolls, maybe a little cringe, or everybody getting ready to dash out of the room because nobody wants to be part of an audit. But when it comes to HR, internal audits are actually not a bad thing. So I wanted to talk just first before we dive in on this, the difference between an internal audit and external audit. So external audit is not always bad, but it's where you would have an external entity come on in and actually go through the checklist of items that are being reviewed. Now, sometimes those can be bad, right, Joey? Because it means that maybe the company's done something that has alerted an agency and now they want to come on in and take a look. But an internal audit is actually a great thing, and it's where a company has decided to be proactive and tackle one or more areas to ensure that they have everything they need so that in the event of an external audit, they're going to pass with flying colors.
That's right. And there are different groups that might want audits at different stages of their organization. So you might be preparing to be acquired or preparing to sell. And when it comes to valuing your business, part of it is making sure your books are in order. And the cleaner your HR affairs, the less risk there is that a buyer would be taking on. You might be another time that you might be looking to do an internal audit is if you're anticipating rapid growth and you say, hey, I am not sure that the systems and processes that we're doing today are going to work well for us as we cross that threshold of adding 10 employees, 20 employees, 50 more employees to the team. So you want to have a team come in and take a look at how you're operating now so that you have peace of mind as you scale and grow later on down the road. Another group that may want to have some audits done is anyone who does business with state or federal government. Because as you know, at any time, you sign these contracts that say you're giving these agencies the right to go in and audit your books. And so you want to make sure that you're doing good housekeeping with the ways that you're tracking some of the things that we'll go into. So these are just some of the reasons you might want an audit. Shoot, you might want an audit because you have an HR pro who was working for your organization, but they've left, and you're not quite sure that they were doing a great job by protecting your business. And so you might want to have us come in, take a look. So let's go into the 10 areas that you might want an HR audit.
Yes, there are so many, and I feel like we could do episodes and episodes on different audits that a small business may want to do, but we compiled a short list of the top 10 audits that we work with small businesses on to audit within their team. So I'm just going to run down them. And maybe, Joey, if you want to just chime in and chat briefly about a little bit, maybe of what each one entails, then we'll go ahead and wrap our show with that today. But number one, auditing I-9s. What do you have to say about that one?
This is the biggest one. Maybe not the biggest because anything with payroll is a big audit too. But so I know and have experienced that people will give you false documents. They will complete the document, but maybe they'll write their sixes like a nine, and so the social security numbers are off. Or you're trying to read someone's handwriting because you have to take manual data and then put it into electronic system. Um, you also, a lot of times, people that are filling out I-9s have no idea how to do it. And so they get in this rhythm of telling people, hey, I need your driver's license and your social security card. And it's illegal to, first of all, tell people which documents to provide, but also you do yourself a disservice if you have a finite view of how to get them done, because you may be doing it wrong. Another thing that comes up is completing them too late. So you're supposed to complete them within the first 3 days of employment. And so checking the dates of when they've been completed versus someone's hire date is something that you want to pay attention to. So it's important. I-9s are governed by Department of Homeland Security, which, as we know, over the past 20 or so years, has had more and more of a presence in our in the way that we just do things in general, in life, whether it's from airplane safety to work. And so, whether it's an intern or an employee, um, or a foreign national, a student, any worker who's getting paid, needs to complete an I-9. So it's a big deal.
Yes, and I'm glad that you took some time to dive into it because that's number one on the list for a reason. And so I'm going to cover just a couple more and just kind of speed us along so that we can get to all 10 of them before we wrap our show. But number two is a dependent audit. And I'll tackle this one really quick because I've done a ton of dependent audits, and this is for companies that sponsor health plans that allow dependents on their plan. And a dependent audit is exactly what it sounds like. It means requesting appropriate documentation to verify that the dependent that's on your plan is actually qualified per your plan eligibility to be on it. So if you are an employer that makes a contribution towards a dependent, you want to make sure that you're only paying for those that should actually. The next one is employee files. So, Joey, there's so many different ways to maintain employee files, whether they're paper, which makes me cringe, or if they are electronic. But there's a method to the madness. So, do you want to talk really quickly about just the importance of auditing employee files?
Yeah, it's important to audit the employee files because you need to know how long to keep a document, when you can legally shred it. You need to know the best practices for what goes in an employee file and what's separate outside of that. Hint, hint, keep all your I-9s together and your employee files in a separate location. And you want to make sure that you are paying attention to sorting out those who are active, inactive, so on and so forth. I also cringe at paper files, but it's still a reality. So, probably 50% of the people listening to this probably have paper files at their office. So, all the more reason to want to make sure that they're right. All the more reason to make sure that you have all of the necessary documents. And that's all I'll say about that. I know we want to march through, but like you said, I could go on and on about these.
Yeah, well, there's definitely more to dive into, but I also wanted to mention number four, which is a workers' compensation audit. This comes up pretty frequently, especially with employers that have gone remote and or are hiring individuals in new work states. And so if you've hired employees in new work states, every time you do, it's important to notify your workers' compensation provider to ensure that you have a policy in place that will cover the employee.
Because that state will hunt you down and you'll have to pay a nice little fine for not completing it on time.
Yep, makes me think about Joey. A couple times a year, we seem to get emails from panicked employers who receive what I call a nasty gram from the state, where the state has said, "Hey, you have an employee in our state, but we don't show that you have workers' comp coverage." So, definitely important to do an audit of that frequently. But I also wanted to chat about employee benefit deductions. Now, I don't know if you want to tackle this one, Joey, or if you prefer that I do, but reconciling payroll deductions to benefit bills always seems to be neglected, and I'm not sure why. But I put it on my top 10 list for audits. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll be brief here. But with the employee benefit deductions, you want to make sure that your employees are being paid accurately, and the systems are separate. There's their paycheck and what they see on their paycheck, but then there are the documents that go out or the cash that goes out to the agencies themselves,
Mhm.
and you want to make sure that A, those numbers match, and B, that they're correct. So, for example, if someone said, okay, this year for my 401k, I do want to elect the full amount. Well, if they've submitted that on paper and you're paying that to the agency, but you haven't set up the payroll to deduct that new amount, then there's going to be a mismatch. And it's a tough time trying to reconcile that because it's tough to reconcile markets that fluctuate up and down. And so it's not just, oh, we're going to calculate that 3%. Well, what is the opportunity loss of that 3%? Right. So making sure that the systems have the same information is a big thing that you want to audit.
Absolutely. And number six on our list, we've talked about it quite a bit in prior episodes, but just couldn't miss adding it on here. Just doing an audit of your 1099 contractors. And I'll kind of lump this with another item that's on our list, which is FLSA classification. So we're talking about classification of your exempt workers. And so just really ensuring that you're taking a look at this regularly, that folks that may have qualified for these classifications in the past are actually still performing work in a manner and with some different changes that may make them now ineligible. So just taking another look at those. That's number six of actually number 10 on our list. But really quick, we also have imputed income. I swear that this is one that always catches small employers by surprise. And imputed income is when your company provides company paid life insurance that is over $50,000 for your employees. So if you're a company doing that, and you're not aware that the value over 50,000 is actually taxable to the employee, then you're going to want to talk to us about how to make sure that your employee has that imputed on their paycheck. So number 8 and 9, I'll let you take, Joey, or maybe we can share. Number 8 is employee handbooks and policies. So what are your thoughts on performing an audit of those items?
Well, with the handbook and policies, you need to be taking a scan of the legal landscape every 6 months, and likely updating your handbook once a year or once every 2 years to reflect any federal, state, or local changes that have impacted your business. That's also going to pour out into any potential payroll changes or paid time off changes that need to be recalculated. But you want to have your head on a swivel when it comes to your policies because, believe it or not, as management of an organization, you're not the only one that sets the rules for your business. Government does too. And so you want to make sure that you're listening to what government has to say about doing work in your business, especially if your team is remote and you have people in different locations.
Absolutely. That's such a great point. And the last one that I'll share to round us out is paid time off reconciliation. And this is where you really want to be taking a look at the accrued balances, the caps, and the usage, kind of going back to the handbook and policies, making sure that they match what's in there, but also that your systems are keeping track of this properly.